Tracking the Tropics will begin momentarily.
Hey there folks, JB Buno here with you in your hurricane headquarters, about 30 seconds away from getting underway. The meteorologists on today's Tracking the Tropics, meteorologist Amanda Holly and meteorologist Rebecca Barry, who you're all going to meet. Use hashtag HeyAmanda, hashtag HeyRebecca in the Facebook Live comment section. We'll be getting to your questions coming up here shortly.
Live from our hurricane headquarters with real-time analysis from some of the nation's top meteorologists, this is Tracking the Tropics.
A pre-season disturbance organizing here in the Atlantic. A reminder that hurricane season is just around the corner. A season that NOAA just announced earlier today is forecasted to be above average. We have a lot to get to as we break it down and take your questions live here on Tracking the Tropics. Hey folks, JB Buno here with you live in your hurricane headquarters. So glad to introduce to you the newest member of the Tracking the Tropics team, meteorologist Rebecca Barry, who's going to be with us a lot this season here on Tracking the Tropics. Rebecca, it's great to have you on the team.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be a part of such a wonderful team, and I'm really excited to be here on WFLA Now.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you. We're going to be talking a whole lot about the NOAA season forecast, the invest that we're looking at here in the center of your screen. So file in your questions here on Facebook Live, here on social media. All you got to do is use the hashtags on your screen. We're really looking for hashtag HeyRebecca, hashtag HeyAmanda for meteorologist Amanda Holly, standing by at the wall with the latest here on this preseason disturbance, Amanda, and NOAA's preseason predictions as to what we're going to see over the next several months.
Hey there, JB. Thanks everyone for joining us on this Thursday afternoon. Yeah, we have a lot to get to. We're talking about a potential preseason subtropical storm, as well as the forecast going through the rest of hurricane season. It officially starts June 1st, but of course the systems really don't usually follow a calendar, and we have had several preseason storms in the past several years, and we could be looking at another one in the next couple of days. This update just came out from the National Hurricane Center, giving this area of low pressure invest 90L, it's being called, a 90% chance of developing over the next 5 days. So this is something we've been talking about for the past couple of days. You can see the very large swirl here on infrared satellite. Doesn't look like your typical tropical system, and that's because it's not tropical right now. It's actually extratropical. It does not have a warm core, but it is going to be moving into an area that's a little more favorable for it to develop a little bit more of a warm core, some warmer temperatures near the center of it, and that's why we could be looking at a subtropical system over the next couple of days. Good news is this is well east of Bermuda, and it's expected to stay well east of the United States. We do have forecast models. Again, just a reminder, an invest just deems a system a disturbance, something that the National Hurricane Center can start running some diagnostics on it, really, and we get those forecast models, and that's what we're looking at here. So through Saturday, it does look like the system is going to kind of curve back toward Bermuda as it gets a little bit more organized, but then it's going to be swept back out to sea as we head into early next week. So this one should stay just a mainly shipping concern. This is what we call a fish storm. Hopefully all of the storms that we see this season stay out to sea, but of course we know that that's not necessarily likely. But that brings me to the 2021 hurricane season forecast for the Atlantic Basin. Now, we got Colorado State's forecast about a couple months ago, and they were predicting an above average season here, 17 named storms, 8 hurricanes, and 4 major hurricanes. But NOAA released their forecast earlier today, and they're also calling for an above average season. Average being 14 named storms, 7 hurricanes, and 3 major hurricanes. NOAA's forecast officially came out with 13 to 20 named storms, 6 to 10 hurricanes here, and 3 to 5 major hurricanes. So That's what we could be looking at as we go all the way through the end of November. Last year, it was a little bit larger than that. We had larger numbers, and of course, that was the record-breaking season. I will say that NOAA specifically said, the National Hurricane Center and the forecasters at NOAA specifically said they are not expecting the numbers that we had last season. So that's some good news. But basically, a lot of the same elements, the environmental elements, are the same as we were going into the 2021 season, or excuse me, the 2020 season, and now into the 2021 season. So we're looking at some very warm sea surface temperatures. The one thing that is different, we talk about it a lot, El Nino and La Nina. Last year we had La Nina in place, which can sometimes bring us above average activity in the Atlantic basin. This year we do not have La Nina in place currently. We're what we call ENSO neutral, excuse me. But as we get toward the end of the season, La Nina could redevelop. So that's another factor for them calling for an above average season. Regardless, we always say, they always say, forecasters always say, it only takes one storm for it to impact us, for it to be a busy season for us. So we're going to plan the same, of course, but again, a couple of the factors there certainly include those above average sea surface temperatures. Now, looking back at the 2020 season, I know a lot of us really don't want to look at it with 30 storms total, but they really did scatter the entire Atlantic basin. It was a busy season for all of us, especially those folks in Louisiana, unfortunately, and along the northern Gulf Coast that got impacted a lot more. But we were impacted here in the state of Florida by Eta, of course, that kind of moved by along our coastline. But many storms did make their way into the Gulf of Mexico, and we had a lot of major hurricanes last year as well. So again, La Nina was in place last year, which was a contributing factor for it to being that record-breaking season with those 30 total storms. Now, if you're wondering what the predictions were like before last season, well, NOAA did predict an above-average season ahead of last year. So this was issued on May 21st last year, going into the 2020 season, and they predicted 13 to 19 named storms, and with a 60% chance of it being an above-average season. They updated it halfway through the season in August, and they updated it to 19 to 25 named storms. So yeah, they did predict an above-average season, but I don't think anyone could have really predicted that record-breaking season. Difficult to predict records there. But that's in the past. We're moving forward now, and this is a look at our 2021 Atlantic season names. So right now we're looking at Invest 90L, and that could become our first named storm of the season. Again, it would be subtropical, and it is not going to impact the United States. But our first name on the list is Anna. Yes, just like the movie. And if you look down this list, there is also an Elsa on the list as well. But these are the forecast names going forward. Hopefully we don't get to all of them. But if we do, we're not going back to the Greek alphabet. And I'll send it on over back to you guys. Again, we're not going back to the Greek alphabet, and we're going to use a different list of names there. But that's kind of what we've got for you this time around. We've got Invest 90L that we're tracking, JB and Rebecca, and of course the forecast for going into hurricane season.
Anna and Elsa, I see a trend here, Rebecca. I see a trend for all the parents, grandparents who have had to watch Frozen or Frozen 2 a million times with their loved ones, their little ones at home, and I don't think that if you look here, I don't think that Elsa looks like a particularly good. That's for a name for a storm. I mean, I don't know.
We would like her to do a number on our sea surface temperatures, because if we had some cooler sea surface temperatures, we could really quiet that season down. But
how about Hurricane Olaf with warm hugs? I think that would be a much more welcome storm name here, at least for us here in the state of Florida. Disney, of course, beloved here in the state of Florida as it is in much of the country. Again, JB Buno. Let's give a warm welcome once again here to Rebecca Barry, the newest member of the Tracking the Tropics team here, folks. And we're going to start to take your questions here on Facebook Live. We're all here with you live in your hurricane headquarters. Amanda Holly, Rebecca Barry, and myself. And we've got some questions coming already, some comments coming in. Again, you can use hashtag Hey Amanda, hashtag Hey Rebecca, or hashtag Hey JB, and we'll throw your comment up here on screen. Hashtag Hey JB, and away we go. Yeah, June 1st, the official start of hurricane season. But as we had Last year, there would have been some preseason activity to talk about here.
Year before that, and
and
the year before that.
I know it's pretty normal for us now. And then Jared here, or actually, this is a comment here from Jessica. Is Florida going to get a hurricane? Let's talk a little bit about that, because here in the Tampa Bay area, we really weren't all that impacted last year.
No, we had one storm kind of impact us the most, which was Eta, and it actually did bring us a large storm surge to our coastline, even though it was a very weak Category 1 storm off of our coast for a short period of time. But we actually got a pretty good storm surge. It kind of coincided with that high tide. It was in the right place. But we were not impacted by a hurricane last year. It's not to say we won't be this year, though.
Yeah, fingers crossed. That just goes to speak to how the seasonal predictions, while fascinating and a really cool scientific aspect, they don't really give you an idea of how the hurricane season's going to treat you. Because had Eta, been a bust for us, then it really would have been a quiet season for Tampa.
Yes, very quiet, but not so quiet for Louisiana. But again, these are just numbers. They don't say exactly where the storms are going to go. It's very difficult to predict where storms will travel this far in advance. But again, both NOAA and Colorado State University have a pretty good track record, at least at forecasting above average versus below average versus neutral.
We have a better idea based on the time of the season where we might see storms. Early season storms tend to end up in the Gulf and tend to be something we have to worry about. And then as the high pressure over Bermuda starts to shift a little bit, that area, the trajectory for those storms starts to shift up the east coast a little bit. So that's a better indication of when we really have to worry.
Guys, if you want to, I'm going to just jump in here really quickly. If you would like to ask your questions here to meteorologists Amanda Holly and Rebecca Barry, as we're here live on Tracking the Tropics, it's very simple. Here on Facebook Live, all you have to do is use one of the hashtags on your screen, like hashtag Hey Rebecca, like hashtag Hey Amanda, and we'll throw your comments up here on screen. And we have a warm comment here from Denica Cohn. Hashtag Hey Rebecca. Welcome.
Thank you so
Rebecca.
much, Denica. That's really nice. Everyone here has been so welcoming. It's been so much fun to join this team, and I love this city. I'm afraid I'm going to get a little fat. Your restaurants are too good. But other than that,
got a lot of
sailing.
good local places to go around here for sure. But you'll be busy with us on Tracking the Tropics. Of course, we normally stream JB on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. That'll be our normal stream going all the way through hurricane season, whether there is a storm we are tracking or not. If there is, we'll probably be on more often than Wednesdays at 2 p.m. But if there's not a storm we're tracking, we're still on here every Wednesday at 2 p.m. talking about other important things that you need to know going through hurricane season. I know we were kind of brainstorming our topics the other day, and we were talking about everything that is really important that everyone kind of needs to have to be prepared.
And we have the next comment that's coming in here. It's one that we how do we man. Jen and Jacob Wheaton are joining us from Louisiana, and they say, hashtag, hey JB, Louisiana is closed. Wow, did that area of the northern Gulf Coast just get battered last year? And we were talking about how here in the Tampa Bay area, we really didn't get all that scathed, but man, in Louisiana, in the Mississippi Gulf Coast, the Alabama Gulf Coast, I mean, just got hammered.
Yeah, and we were talking to the National Hurricane Center, a few of the folks there, the forecasters, and the director, and we kind of asked them, was this just by coincidence? Was this a set of meteorological factors that kind of all came into play that were just in place? And that's what they said. It was really just a chance that, the Bermuda High that you were just talking about, it was set up in the right place for all of those storms to kind of be filtered right into Louisiana. But if that area of high pressure was just off to the east a little bit, all of those storms could have impacted Florida or Mississippi, or even if it was a little bit stronger, they could have impacted Texas. So that was last year, and going into this season, we could be looking at something totally different. But we are looking at tracking many, many storms throughout the season.
It feels like 2005 did for Florida with Charlie, Francis, Ivan, Jean,
For Louisiana, yes, absolutely. That last year was just, it was a busy one, unfortunately.
Let's get to the next comment that's coming in here, and it's from Marie Goff. Hashtag JB, how's this year's hurricane season looking? And that's why we have the numbers here for you folks. Again, this was just announced here by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and this is a big day in their calendar because they put out their season outlook for the Atlantic hurricane season. There you see the numbers, and do they have a crystal ball in there? No, it's just a lot of data and a whole lot of science. right, Amanda?
So much science. It's so cool to see what factors they take into consideration. Of course, the biggest is always El Nino versus La Nina, and they said we were neutral right now, and Amanda pointed out that they also said that we were most likely, or we have a chance at least, that we could redevelop La Nina, which contributes to higher than normal storms. They said it's a 60% chance we're going to have an above average season, so it certainly feels like we're going to have to, get prepared and get ready for the season early, just as we have been for the last couple of seasons. It does feel like it's going to be an active season based on all of the predictions, not just NOAA's, but they also made it very explicitly clear they do not expect that record-breaking number of storms they saw last season.
Yeah, so both NOAA, both Colorado State University predicting that above average. And average, we were talking about too, was just updated. The statistics for that average, that where that comes from, it's climatological, and we do an average over the past 30 years. And because we just entered a new decade, we reevaluated those averages, and those averages also increased. So if that looks different to you, well, it is different. It increased to 14 named storms, 7 named hurricanes, and 3 major hurricanes. And those are our new kind of baseline numbers that we have moving forward.
Next question's coming in here from Michael. We got a lot of Louisiana viewers. I wonder why, right? A lot of Louisiana viewers joining us here on our preseason Thursday edition here of Tracking the Tropics. We're going to, again, take your questions with the hashtags, hashtag Hey Amanda, hashtag Hey Rebecca, hashtag Hey JB. And here we have a hashtag Hey JB from Michael saying, from what it looks like so far, how likely is Louisiana going to get hit? And, with that NOAA season forecast that they put out, right, there's nothing about geographic location. There's nothing that they can say that suggests like, oh, the Texas coastline needs to watch out this season, or Florida really sticking out like a sore thumb needs to watch out this season. There's nothing like that geographically, right?
Not this far in advance. Unfortunately, we can't predict the track of these storms just yet. But as we get closer, the National Hurricane Center has some new tools going into this season to help them predict in the short term at least. And I'm talking 10 to 15 days out. We have new tools, some upgraded tools to help us forecast where these systems are going to be developing and where they'll be going. And that includes, I know everyone, the European versus the GFS. We talk about it every single year, but the GFS, the American model, actually just got an upgrade, a major upgrade, and it should help us better predict where these storms are going to go and where they're going to develop. So that'll give us advanced warning time and hopefully more time for you guys to prepare at home.
And it's been really exciting, some of the advances they've made. I'm excited to see what the GFS upgrade looks like and how we'll be able to use it and the difference it's going to make. The storm surge modeling over the past couple of years has gotten really good. That was a new product a couple of years ago, probably 5 years ago, and it just continues to get better and better. And then our satellite upgrades has really changed the game for hurricane forecasting too. I do think that the better satellite imagery has given us a couple more fish storms that otherwise would have gone unnoticed and maybe not used a name for. And so I do think that made a difference in how many named systems we have, having those higher resolution images. And so that's something to consider when you look at those numbers, is we can see in high definition the tiniest little swirl out there now, and sometimes I think we do use a name based on that we otherwise wouldn't have.
Absolutely, yeah. The National Hurricane Center is going to name something that's out there that is tropical, but that we may not have otherwise detected.
We have, as folks join us throughout Tracking the Tropics over the course of the season, right? We have our Tracking the Tropics super fans that are out there. I know that Lauren Gangle is one of them, joining us here with hashtag HJB, hashtag Hey Rebecca, hashtag Hey Amanda. Love you guys. Thank you for all your info and updates. A lot more info and updates to come over the course of the season, especially with as many as 20 named storms being predicted, Lauren. So thank you, right? Thank you to Lauren for joining us. And how about James Michael Barkus, hashtag HJB. So will Invest 90L become the first hurricane of the season?
So it's unlikely at this point. The forecasts are not showing that. This is the look at the forecast models, so the location of where it will go. But even our intensity forecasts do not show this becoming really anything stronger. In fact, it already has gale force winds in the 40-mile-per-hour range. It's just not a tropical or subtropical system. It is more of an area of low pressure that kind of came off the coast of the United States, really, and it's kind of developing some of those tropical characteristics. So it could get a name here. regardless, this should just be a reminder that it's that time, folks.
It is that time. And with the names, the first thing I do, and I feel like everyone does this, is look through to see if all your friends' names are on there.
On the list, right?
On the list. And then the second thing I do is I look at the pronunciations, and I never feel more unsure of my pronunciations until I look at how they're spelled and how they're pronunciated. There was Isaias last year.
Isaias.
We don't have any big stumbling blocks this year. But
I still don't know if it's Cristobal or Cristobal. I'm still figuring that one out.
how to start a meteorologist fight.
in a hurry. That's big shout out to my mother. My mother's name Dorian. So everyone remembers Dorian. We all look for the names on the list, right? I'm looking for names here in the Facebook Live comment section, particularly hashtags. How about Russ Kahn here? Hashtag Hey Amanda. What are the contributing factors that establish El La Nina, and how often does it change?
It's a great question there, Russ. Thank you for asking it. So La Nina, El Nino, it's an ENSO is what we're talking about here. It's it's a teleconnection that is actually in the Pacific Ocean, so off the coast of South America. There we go. Wanted to say Africa, but it's off the western coast. Oh my gosh, I'm getting my direction going all the way to the other side here, but yeah. It is off the western coast of South America, and it's determined by the water temperatures, the sea surface temperatures kind of off the coast there, and if they're cooler than normal or if they're warmer than normal. And there's several different factors that go into it, but we were in a La Nina, and that means we actually have better environmental conditions in the Atlantic for tropical development. That's why it was a contributing factor last year for us to have an above normal season. Right now, those conditions have changed a little bit, and they do change every several months. But right now it looks like we're kind of in a neutral pattern. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we'll have an above average season or below average season. But with an El Nino, that means we have harsher environmental factors in the Atlantic Ocean. I know we're going from the Pacific to the Atlantic, but this is in the Pacific. This is where this is measured, and it does relate to the environmental factors that affect tropical systems in the Atlantic.
We miss El Nino. Just going to throw that in there.
El Nino is best for us going into tropical season, but it doesn't look like we're going to go into El Nino this year.
We have some great questions that are still coming in here. How about, and this was related to what you guys were just talking about 5 minutes ago. David Fassel, hashtag Hey Amanda or Rebecca. Do we have better tracking with satellites for 2021? Are we in a better place for early predictions? This is a phenomenal question here from David.
And we do have better satellites. That contributes more to our observations and our ability to determine if it's a storm, determine the wind speeds. I mean, they can look at the sea foam on a particular storm, and that helps determine the wind speeds. And so that's a great factor for us, but it doesn't necessarily help with early season predictions. That looks at more broad factors, whether it's the salinity of the sea surface temperatures, that El Nino versus La Nina. And so the overall more global weather patterns is what we're looking at for the more seasonal predictions, where satellites help us with the more nowcasting and identifying hurricanes, identifying those factors that let us know how strong the storm is.
And I actually want to mention something that was also mentioned in the conference earlier, something that I thought was really cool just based on the science and the technology, the improvements that we have. The Atlantic Oceanographic and Meteorological Laboratory, it is run by NOAA. They actually are going to be deploying its largest array of air and water uncrewed systems to gather data, and then that data will be input into our forecast models. So this is things like drones and even things that sit on the surface under the storm there, on the surface of the water, that will kind of be with the storm as it moves. And all of those things are going to be taking measurements from inside the storm, which is really important because then we can take those measurements and put them into the models, and we're going to have a more accurate starting point for those models, and then that will be more accurate moving forward.
Sounds like hurricane hunters on steroids.
Yes.
How about Brian Crossley here? Hashtag Hey Amanda. Not Romanda. That would combine these two. Hashtag Hey Amanda, hashtag Hey Rebecca. What is the best way to get information during a storm when cell towers and power/cable goes out to get up-to-date information?
Weather radios are absolutely a way to go. It was really interesting. I talked to some of the meteorologists with the National Weather Service over in the Panhandle of Florida after they had one of their more significant hurricanes, and they did lose cell service for a while. I feel like when a hurricane hits, we're most likely going to lose your cable and your power, and at that point, we all rely on our cell phones. And then at a certain point, some cell phone towers, excuse me, are taken out, and at that point, they were relying on ham radios to communicate between the different emergency offices, and so that made me take a closer look at ham radios. But the good news is that cell phone companies understand this risk, and they have mobile cell phone towers at the ready to move into these areas as soon as it's safe. And so service was restored within 2 days in most cases. In terms of cell phone, power takes much, much longer. But if you can get people cell service, they can get that more accurate and reliable information. And they didn't really lose cell phone service until the second half of the hurricane moving onshore. And so at that point, people were where they, planned to ride the storm out, so to speak. And so the loss of communication wasn't as detrimental as if they had lost that communication earlier in the storm when people were still trying to make decisions if they were going to go or not.
Yeah, so weather radios are great to have, and then, when that power and that cell service is restored, it's always really important to have a form of recharging your cells, because obviously those batteries die, and if power is not on yet, then you'll need a way to recharge your phone. Even though the cell service may come back, if your phone's dead, it's still not of much use.
How about Veronica Lynham here, #AJB? I guess I'll wait to get a new fence. LOL, talking about what you see there at the bottom of your screen. NOAA forecasting an above normal season with perhaps 6 to 10 hurricanes. It could fall, somewhere in that number, higher than that number, lower than that number, but that's the range that they have predicted for this season. So what do we say here for Veronica?
Well, I think it's funny how we all tie our own actions into Mother Nature. For us, it's mulch. Every time I've remulched my yard, we've gotten a hurricane, so I'm really not looking forward to remulching the yard. But
please don't.
Yeah, no.
Not after moving here.
Just not going to win Yard of the Month. That's all. Probably going to be threatened by a storm this season. Hopefully, it is not serious enough to damage your fence. Good luck with that.
Lori Broussard Keys here, joining us from Lake Charles, Louisiana, rebuking these storms, maybe rebuilding these storms. We've had enough. 2020 offered 2 hurricanes during a pandemic, a winter storm, and just this past Tuesday, a major flood, third highest since the 1800s, and now on alert for tomorrow. Again, this is coming from Lake Charles, Louisiana. We are tired, #AJB. I think that Louisiana has had a rough go of it the last, let's say, 14, 15 months.
Yeah, unfortunately, Lake Charles was kind of targeted by those 2 hurricanes, and they hit within 10, the center of the storm. Those 2 storms moved onshore within 10 miles of each other, and not long after one another either. So the numbers that you're looking at, the forecasts that you're looking at, luckily don't predict where these storms are going to go, and hopefully most of them are going to be fish storms. There'll be a shipping concern, and they'll stay out in the Atlantic and not affect land at all. But we have to be prepared, and again, hurricane season starts June 1st. Activity, though, typically doesn't ramp up until late July as we get into August and September.
Last question that we're going to be taking here on this edition of Tracking the Tropics comes from Charmed Healer here, #Hey Rebecca, what are the odds of New England? Now, I'm trying to remember how many storms made its way up the East Coast last year to that region of the country. New England can, of course, get hit with hurricanes, as can the tri-state area of New York, the Carolinas, the Delmarva area. These are areas of the northeastern United States. The East Coast can get hit and does get hit. So what are the odds of New England getting hit? What do we say here?
Much less than anywhere else that we're talking about. We just don't see a lot of storms making their way up the East Coast and making it all the way to New England because of the positioning of the high pressure over Bermuda that shifts up and down, and that really steers a lot of these hurricanes into that more comma shape. And so as the systems are moving around, so around a high pressure, air moves clockwise, and so that's getting caught in the clockwise motion of that high pressure, and that's how it's basically one of the bigger steering currents. And so it's pretty unusual for a storm to make a direct impact on New England. A lot of times the Carolinas catch it, and then they kind of veer off from there or travel as a weaker system because the Carolinas get slammed by that stronger storm.
Yeah, the Outer Banks just kind of stick out like a sore thumb, but luckily as you go higher in that latitude anyway, the storms typically become weaker. So even if you do get impacted by a storm, it's not necessarily as strong.
It's been awesome here, you guys, as far as being here live with meteorologist Amanda Holly and, of course, Rebecca Barry, who you're going to be seeing a whole lot of this year on Tracking the Tropics. Along with the rest of our team, you'll be seeing meteorologist Ian Oliver a lot as well. Myself and our entire team getting really prepared here to give you everything that you need as far as hurricane preparedness. We're here to inform, we're here to educate, we're here to do everything that we can to keep you in the know, and of course you and your family safe over the 2021 hurricane season and hurricane seasons beyond that. You can click on the link here on Facebook Live. It'll take you over to an article where you can read more about NOAA's 2021 hurricane season forecast for the Atlantic hurricane region. And of course, we're going to be back here with you on June 1st at 2 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Central, that being a Tuesday, the official start of hurricane season here in the Atlantic. It'll be myself, other members of the Tracking the Tropics team. I think we'll be featuring WKRG Chief Meteorologist Ed Bloodsworth that day as well. Great to have Ed on the program. We'll be featuring a whole lot of meteorologists from across the country here on Tracking the Tropics as we go from, of course, June, July, August, September, all the way, of course, to the statistical peak of hurricane season, and all the way through to the final week of hurricane season, of course, being there in November. So we'll, of course, have all your updates, all the information that you need. And again, you can click on the link in the Facebook Live description here. It'll take you over to the article where you can read more about NOAA forecasting an above normal season for 2021. For Rebecca Barry and Amanda Holly, I'm JB Buno. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time on Tracking the Tropics.
Thank you for watching Tracking the Tropics. Thank you for watching Tracking the Tropics.